Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and we got even more class changes arriving with the next weekly reset, either tomorrow for the NA region or in a couple of days for the region of EU. This set of class tuning, however, does bring us some dire news, with additional nerfs arriving to some of the strongest and the most popular playstyles for both PvE and PvP content. Part of this set of tuning is there to help bring down some of the classes that found themselves overperforming while helping to reinforce everyone else that's lagging behind. This set of changes is going to affect all forms of endgame content, from PvE group activities such as dungeons and raids, but also PvP specific additional changes as well. And it's very possible that this whole list of class changes, which is quite broad, isn't even final. They may add additional changes to this list, but also may retract some of the upcoming nerfs before this update officially goes live. But only time will tell what will happen to our favorite classes going forward. But even if this list is by no means final, I still wanted to go over some of the biggest nerfs arriving so far for the Season 3 content of Dragonflight. And if you guys enjoy regular class updates like these, most of you watching these are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do. So let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway. Especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight 10.2 or any of the future updates going forward. Starting off, we have a couple of new changes for the class of Death Knight, with a spec of Unholy, which hasn't been feeling quite as strong as they have hoped for PvE content. So new buffs are coming in to improve their overall sustain damage, with damage increases to Virulent Plague, Festering Strike, Festering Wounds, as well as the Ghoul's Sweeping Claws, which does improve their single target a little. But also a nice buff for Epidemic for Cleave and AoE content, which does result in a significant change for Mythic Plus dungeons. Next, we have the most popular melee spec for the patch 10.2, the Havoc Demon Hunter, which is seeing AoE nerfs across some of their major abilities, such as Fel Rush, Immolation Aura, and Fel Barrage, all reduced by 12%. This does result in a notable reduction within Mythic Plus content, but it also affects them within single target as well, since Immolation Aura is a huge ability that is very much core to the current Demon Hunter playstyle. However, I don't believe Havoc Demon Hunters are going anywhere, and I believe even with all of these mentioned changes, they're still going to be a very competitive pick so far for the Season 3. Restoration Druids are seeing damage reductions as of this week, since the playstyle does a little bit too much output compared to every other healer, especially when you build yourself to leverage the Feral Hybrid playstyle. All Feral abilities from Bite, Rip, Rake, and Shred are nerfed somewhere between 10 to 20% depending on the ability, which is going to be quite noticeable. However, this change does make every other healer a little bit more competitive when comparing them to the Restoration Druid damage output. Devastation Evokers still remain behind the spec of Augmentation, so they're getting a 5% overall damage buff, as well as a survivability improvement through the talents like Regenerative Magic, as well as Draconic Legacy Stamina increase. Beastmaster Hunter is another popular spec that's seen some reductions as of this week, specifically to the Beast Mastery tier set bonus for Season 3. The tier set allows your Dire Beasts to benefit from abilities such as Kill Command as well as Beast Cleave, and both of these abilities specifically for the Dire Beast are seeing a 30% overall reduction. So far, the early numbers suggest that this is at best a 3% nerf for single target, but a 5% nerf for AoE. There might be a talent build some point in the future for Beastmaster Hunters, which will help mitigate some of these nerfs and improve the overall output. However, it is still going to be a notable change if you recently picked up a Beastmaster Hunter for the Season 3. The spec of Mistweaver Monk is also seeing nerfs as of this week, which is to me surprising since the playstyle has normally stayed out of the spotlight so far within this expansion, but it's gained a lot more popularity ever since the launch of the patch 10.2. For Mistweavers, we're seeing reductions to the Mana Tea mana cost reduction effect, which is going to be only 25% as effective. The talent of Upwelling will stack up to a 15 times maximum, while the Essence Font Healing overall is seeing a 10% reduction. Invigorating Mist Cleave Healing is also seeing a 10% nerf as well. The talent of Calming Coalescence stacks now build at 2% per stack instead of 3. Priority Healing of Vivify does see a slight improvement, as so does the Ancient Concordance talent, which allows your Rising Sun kicks to have a higher chance to reset. And besides Mistweaver changes, we also see a slight buff to the spec of Windwalker, which is seeing a 6% damage increase. Holy Paladins are seeing a few more damage buffs this week as well. where the ability of Crusader Strike is going to deal 25% additional damage, while Hammer of Wrath would deal 20% damage instead. Both of these abilities are also seeing a mana cost reduction on top of it. Then we have the class of Priest, where the disparity between Disc Priest and Holy Priest is getting slightly reduced. Disc Priest is seeing its damage and healing reduced by 3%, while Holy Priest is seeing its healing buffed by 4%. Burning Vehemence causes Holy Fire to deal 75% of initial damage instead of the original 60%, which does improve Holy Priest AoE damage in dungeons, while the 2-set bonus will grant you slightly longer duration for your renews, which increases healing but also interacts with the 4-set bonus. Another popular spec for the patch 10.2 is Assassination Rogue, which is also seeing nerfs as of this week, with your primary massive Kingsbane poison nerfed by 15%, while Blindside talent procs are reduced down to 15%. This overall results in a decent single target nerf, but only about a 4% reduction, which is a much more generous nerf that most rogues have expected to see as of this week. Lastly, for PvE changes, we have the class of Shaman, specifically with the spec of Healing Restoration, where we see a cost reduction on the Healing Surge, but also damage increase to Chain Lightning and Acid Rain, which is going to increase their dungeon damage performance. Next, we have a whole new set of PvP specific adjustments, starting with the spec of Unholy, where the talent of Rotten Touch does see a nerf, which will reduce your overall sustain and burst damage capabilities. Next, we have the Restoration Druid, where we see the 4-set Nourish healing from the Treants reduced by 50% within PvP, with their Mastery value also reduced by 15%, which will result altogether in less overall healing. Marksmanship Hunters, however, are seeing PvP survivability buffs as of this week, with Survival of the Fittest going to further reduce additional 10% more damage with every use of the defensive, while Exhilaration gives you a 40% maximum health heal, up from 30%. The spec of Mistweaver continues to receive additional nerfs for PvP, with their 2-set bonus for Chi Harmony bonus healing now capped at 15% additional healing within PvP encounters. Defensive passives such as Healing Elixir as well as Yolon's Grace are being reduced in value, with the Fortifying Brew losing additional defensives within PvP, but also Diffuse Magic sees damage reduction reduced to 40% down from 60%. For Discipline Priests, their tier set bonus now has a 100% chance to proc a secondary smite, making the 4-set a lot more consistent. Enhancement Shaman's Thorim Invocation talent will increase Lightning Bolt damage by 10% instead of 20%. However, Lava Lash does see its damage gain 13% in overall effectiveness, with Elemental Blast also being increased by 9% as well. Stormweaver causes your Chain Heal and Chain Lightning to gain 150% benefit from Maelstrom Weapon, up from the 100%, which is a nice defensive benefit. Elemental Shaman's 4-set is also being increased by 10% within PvP to allow for the set to be a lot more impactful, with the Restoration Shaman 2-set bonus no longer seeing any reductions within PvP. Subtlety rogues are seeing burst and cooldown reductions this week, with their Shadow Blade's damage bonus capped at 15% within PvP combat. The cooldown reduction talent of Thieves' Bargain is losing roughly 13% in overall PvP effectiveness, which means it'll take longer for you to regain Feint, Vanish, as well as Shadow Blades. Demonology Warlock is another spec that's on the chopping block, with their PvP talent of Fell Obelisk attack and cast speed reduction reduced by 10%. The Master Summoner PvP talent that reduces the cast time taken for some of your demons is now going to have a new value of 15, down from 20. Your Felguard also loses out on some of its damage, with the talent of Antoran Ornaments further reduced by half within PvP. The tier set Dot of Doombrand is no longer dispellable within PvP combat. The debuff duration is no longer reduced in PvP, and the damage of the 2-set and the 4-set is being buffed by 10% within player combat. For Destruction Warlocks, the Flame Rift damage is no longer reduced within PvP, allowing those rifts to be a little bit more effective. And lastly, we see the Fury, where you're gaining some additional buffs this week, with Rampage dealing 10% additional damage within PvP combat. The same can be said for Execute, also dealing 10% additional damage. The modified Crushing Blow ability will deal 20% more damage in PvP, while the base Raging Blow will deal 15% instead. Also, Annihilation version of Raging Blow will also have a 15% damage increase for auto attack focus builds. as per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.